Hey guys, Zach here, and today I want to talk to you guys about 5 signs that I look out for that tell you that something has gone wrong in your tank. Before we get into it, if you could subscribe, it does help the channel out tremendously. With that out of the way, let's get into it. The first sign that I look for in my tanks that tell me something might have gone wrong is the water clarity. I like to keep my tanks crystal clear, and I know that if they're fully cycled and they've got lots of plants and it's nice and balanced, they'll stay crystal clear. Right? But some tanks just don't seem to balance properly, or something happens in them, something goes wrong, and the clarity just goes totally off. Now, I'm not talking about things like disturbing the substrate and getting that kind of misty look to it. No, that should be within expectations, and I know that that's going to go away in the next couple of hours as the substrate settles. I'm also not talking about when you add in new wood to a setup or start with new wood for a new setup and you get that brown color in the water. It's just tannins. Doing a water change is going to get rid of the look if you don't like it. If you do like it with that brown tint to it, like you're going for a biotope, then just leave it. It's not going to affect the fish. No, I'm talking about when you, first thing, you look at your tank and you do a double take at it. Like, what's wrong with the tank? Right? It's either got this weird white film to it, or it's got kind of like a greeny glow to it. Just something about the water just doesn't look quite right, or it's super thick and you can't even see through it. Right? That's a really good indicator that, hey, something's happening with your tank that shouldn't be happening. Right? Be it what it is, it's a good wake-up call to you to say, hey, you need to fix this problem. The second sign that I look out for in my tanks is plant health. Plants look phenomenal in tanks when they're nice and healthy and they're those nice bright colors. They add those pops of colors to your tank. However, you can tell that something's gone wrong when something's not right with your plants, and there are a couple different things that'll happen with your plants. The first is they just immediately melt and shrivel up and just die. Right? That's really easy an indicator to see, but I'm not talking about like crypts or other plants that are really notorious for melting. They're gonna melt and then they should come back. Now, I'm talking about plants that don't normally melt, but for some reason have started to melt, or they just kind of wither up and die, right? That's usually a good indicator that something's going wrong with your tank, right? Now, another thing I like to look out for with plants is just leaf color. If you've got a green plant in your tank and it's supposed to be green, then it should be green. If the leaves start to turn yellow, you know something's going wrong in your tank, especially if it's across a variety of different plants, and all the leaves kind of start to turn yellow, you know something's going wrong and you need to look further into it. Another good indicator with plants is if the leaves either fall off or start to get holes in them. Those are really quite sound indicators that something's going wrong in your tank, and again, you need to find the source of that problem. Another good indicator with plants is just their overall growth, right? With epiphytes, they grow super slow, and that's to be expected, but with stems, if you've put them in and for some reason they're just real static for months at a time, and there's just no new growth happening, you know that that's an issue, and you gotta find the source of that. So sign number 2 is overall plant health. The third sign that indicates to me that something has gone wrong inside of a tank is smell. Now, I keep all of these tanks, and as long as they're cycled and everything's going smooth, there's no smell to them, right? Just like with any houseplant, you go over to it and you give it a good smell, you shouldn't get back really anything. It's the same with aquariums. You go over to them, you give them a good smell, there really shouldn't be anything that comes back and hits you, right? It should be a pretty fresh smell. It should smell planty, especially if they're heavily planted tanks. But if you go over and you smell them and you get this real putrid, gross smell to it, it tells you that there is something wrong inside your tank. Now, it can be something simple like just excess waste buildup that your tank can't handle, and it's just releasing these gases that have this smell to it, but it can be something much more significant than that, and it can really tell you that there is something very wrong inside of your tank, and that you've got to do something about that problem. So the third sign that indicates to me something's gone wrong is the smell of the tank. The fourth sign that I look for is something that I use in my more developed tanks, my tanks that already have inhabitants that are already cycled. and it's going to be the animal's behavior. This is a much more careful inspect and look at your tank to see if something's going wrong. It's something that can be easily missed, and you really have to pay attention to your tank in order to pick up on these signs. But every animal in a tank is going to display certain habits or certain behaviors that are going to be pretty much repeatable from day to day for them, right? Fish, maybe they swim certain areas, or they like certain areas of the tank, or they spend a lot of time on certain levels of the tank, or whatever it might be, right? There's behaviors that they're going to repeat from day to day. Now, if they start to go astray from this, and it's just one, that can indicate that that fish or inhabitant is coming to an end, and they're probably going to die off soon. But if you see that a bunch of your animals in your tanks are starting to act real strange, then it should tell you that there's something wrong with your tank, right? If you've got planaria, your shrimp are going to be pretty much flinging themselves all over the place, trying to shoot their way up out of the tank, and you'll see this. They'll be really sporadic and everything, and it's going to be really weird to see, right? With fish, if they're up at the top gasping for air, you know that something's gone wrong in the tank. So pay careful attention and close attention in your more developed tanks and tanks that are already cycled to your animal's behavior, because it's a very good indicator that something goes wrong in your tank when they act bizarre. Fifth sign that I like to look for in a tank is just the complete unexpected thing, right? In a tank that I set up, I know that there should be, certain things that I can expect, right? Certain, plant growth, clarity-wise, animal-wise. There's certain things that I can sort of expect with tanks, and there are certain things that I like to make a checklist about that kind of, this should happen, kind of a rough timeline. But sometimes in a tank, something can just happen because there's so much water chemistry and there's just a balancing act happening. Something can happen that is just totally out of left field. Something completely unexpected that you could never have predicted for, that just kind of happens. And sometimes it can be a sign that something very wrong has happened in your tank. Right? Now, this particular sign is very case-to-case dependent, right? What happens in my tank unexpectedly might not happen in your tank, unexpectedly might not happen in your neighbor's tank unexpectedly, right? It's a complete wild card, something that you look at and you just know, okay, what is that? I don't know what that is. There's something very wrong here that you need to take a step back from and just look at and think, okay, I know something's wrong. I haven't really seen this problem before, but I know something's wrong, and it's just a sign that, yes, something has gone wrong, right? But that's the fifth sign that I look out for. Now, I know you're all sitting there thinking I've just listed off a bunch of signs that problems have happened in your tank, and I just haven't given you guys any answers as to how to solve them. And truthfully, there's never going to be one solid answer for all the problems, right? From tank to tank, case to case, it can differ, right? Your water clarity might be off for a slightly different reason than why my water clarity is off. However, there are certain steps that I personally like to take that have really helped me with solving these problems. Now, the first thing that I like to do is, as soon as I notice that something is off about the tank, is I do like to do a water change. Normally, I don't do water changes, especially on cycle tanks that are perfectly healthy and have a balance. I just find there's no need to do them. But on a tank that's had something go wrong inside of it, a water change isn't going to hurt. But the bigger thing here is that a water change is going to buy you time. Right? All that fresh water in is going to buy you time so you can research your problem and figure out a solution. Right? I've got a tank right now that I'm trying to cycle and balance, and it's got this weird clarity issue with it. I'll put a picture of it on screen. And what I've done is I've done a water change, and now I've looked up the solution, and I've got, it could be X, Y, or Z inside the tank that's going wrong, and I have to try those out. So the water change bought me time so I can look up and research what the problem is, and I can try possible solutions. So that is everything for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you've made it this far, consider subscribing, and I will see you guys next time. Peace.